Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Now we have completed master file creations. Now we have completed customer master files, supplier master files, item master files, banking, GL accounts, and budgets and assets. Today we will start from supplier module. By clicking these suppliers, you can go to supplier module. I'll quickly go through how to create a supplier. You can create a supplier by clicking these suppliers and click add a supplier. You can enter supplier name, and if you have supplier categories, you can select supplier category from here. And if you have supplier opening balances, you can enter supplier opening balance and opening balance as at date. And if your supplier is giving you credit limit, you can enter that credit limit. And if your supplier is a tax registered or VAT registered supplier, you can enter supplier's tax reference number. And you can enter postal address, physical address, and supplier contact details. If you have enter any email address here, you can directly email that purchase orders to your supplier. If your supplier regularly giving you discount, you can enter this default discount. And if your supplier is a tax registered supplier, you can select the default tax rate. And if your supplier giving a credit period to you, you can enter credit period in number of days. From here, you can select supplier's currency, and you can enter additional contact details of suppliers. By clicking this plus mark, you can add additional contacts. You can enter contact name, designation, telephone, fax, mobile numbers, and email address. From banking details tab, you can enter supplier's bank details and notes. If you want to add any notes to your suppliers, you can add from here. And from user defined fields tab, you can enter additional details in addition to this under details tab. You can rename these labels from company settings. From report layouts, you can set default layouts for your supplier transactions. After you enter details, you can save this supplier. You can create supplier categories from suppliers list, supplier categories. By clicking add category, you can add supplier category. Right. After you create suppliers, you can view that list of suppliers, and you can view supplier categories. Okay, next we will move to supplier transactions. First, we will move to supplier purchase orders. Now, in practical situations, sometimes in your company, you may send purchase orders to your suppliers before purchase goods from the suppliers. From purchase orders, you can confirm your orders, and suppliers will send goods according to purchase orders. By clicking this add purchase orders, you can enter purchase order. First, you need to select the supplier name from this supplier drop-down menu. After you select that supplier, system will display supplier's balance, tax numbers, credit limit, and physical address and postal address. And when you are creating time, if you have entered any default discount or credit period, it will calculate from here. Okay, we will open that supplier. Now in the supply has credit limit 500,000. It will display here, and this has default discount 25%. You can see that default discount, and 30 days credit period. Now when you are sending purchase order from here also, it will calculate uh, 30 days. Currency is Sri Lankan rupees, therefore it will display in LKR. Right. After you select the supplier, you can select items. By clicking this selection item, you can enter items you are going to purchase. Now when you are select that item, you can view item code, item description, reserved quantity, and current quantity on hand. You can select the item. After that, you can enter quantity. Now, if you have previously purchased this item, system will display the price, previously purchased price. And if it is the same price, you can continue, or if it is changed, you can change the purchase that item price. Purchase price you can change. Next, if it is if supply is a tax registered supplier, taxes available here, and from here you can view exclusive amount, tax amount, and total. And if you are allocating these purchases for any department, or if you are using analysis code, you can select that analysis codes from here. Then that purchases cost will go to that analysis code when you are purchasing the items. And if you have different layouts for different suppliers, you can select the layout here. And here also, when you are creating supplier, you can select that layout purchase order, and it will display here. Like this, you can add items, and you can, if you want, you can email this purchase order to your supplier. Right now, you can enter supplier purchase order. Go to suppliers, transactions, supplier purchase orders. Click add purchase order, and you can enter supplier purchase order. Okay, now we will discuss advanced features in purchase orders. First, this purchase order is just a document. There's no any accounting transactions when you are entering a purchase order. Okay, there's no accounting transactions. It's only a document. Now, here you can see this use inclusive amounts. If you tick that option, now here you can see exclusive price. If you tick this use inclusive amount, system will display amounts in with taxes. If you tick this, system will display inclusive price, that is with taxes. If you untick this option, system will display exclusive price. Next, if you want to add any comments for these items, you can enter by clicking this file mark. And if you add any additional details or instructions for this item, you can view when you are printing that purchase order. And also, this icon will change to blue color. And you can add any number of items. If you want to give line discounts, or if your customer supplier giving discounts, different discounts for different items, you can enter in line discount. Okay, now for an example, if your supplier giving discount 10% discounts for all items, you can enter 10% for all items here, or line items, or you can enter this purchase order heading. Or if that supplier giving you different discount rates for different items, you can enter that discount rates here. Now for an example, first item they will give 20% discount, and second item they will give 10% discount. So here you can enter discount percentage. Or else if they're giving only discount amount, you can enter that discount amount under uh, discount column, like this. You can enter discount. Next, if you want to add any additional details for this purchase order, you can enter here. Now for an example, if you want to deliver on a particular day, or to deliver on to a particular location, you can enter these details. And also, you can remember when you are setting your company settings, you can set that information. Now here, purchase order, you have set please deliver, and that details will display here. You can set a default document message. That default document message will display here, and if you want, you can change here. In addition to that, you can add messages, and when you are processing that purchase order, you can select that message. From here, you can add messages by clicking this add message. And you can select that message. After that, you can save. Furthermore, now you can see document numbers will display it will come automatically, and you can set this purchase order numbers from company settings, document and statements. and document numbers. From here you can set that document number, and that document number will display here. After you enter that purchase orders, you can view those purchase orders from this purchase orders list. Go to suppliers, transactions, supplier purchase orders. From here, you can view that purchase orders list. There are another few options. We will discuss those options now. First, before discuss options, I'll change this amount. Right. I'll open that purchase order again. First option is purchase order history. You can view that purchase order history by clicking this purchase order history. In this history, system will display the actions, date, and user. From here, you can view that created date, uh, action as created, and date, user, and details. Now here you can see it has created on 14th August, and now I have edited that purchase order. I changed the price, so it display under action edited, date, user, and details. Next, show user defined fields. Now, if you want to add additional details for this purchase order, by clicking this user defined fields, you can enter that additional details. You can change these labels from company settings, user defined fields, document and transactions, supplier purchase orders. From here, you can rename your labels. Next, document attachments. If you want to attach any documents for this purchase order, by clicking this add attachment, you can add attachments. And when you are attaching documents, those files should not exceed 2 MB, and you can attach up to 5 attachments. Document notes. You can add document notes here. And when action date reads, you can view from the dashboard. From here, you can view that notes. Next, confirm, cancel invoice, uh, create copy purchase order. Now, if you, after you send your purchase order, if your supplier confirm that says purchase order, you can confirm from here, and then that status will change to confirm. Then and after that, after you send that purchase order, if your supplier cancel that order, if that supplier doesn't have that quantities, they will cancel. And if supplier cancel the order, you can change the purchase order status to cancel. Next, invoice. After you send the purchase order, supplier will send you the invoice. At time you can change that purchase order status to invoice. And if you want to create invoice for this purchase order after supplier sends goods to you, you can convert this purchase order to supplier invoice by clicking this create invoice. And also, if you click purchase copy purchase order, you can copy same purchase order for another purchase order. Now here it's 32, number is 32. This will create a new purchase order. After you create purchase orders, you can view purchase orders list from here. From this grid, if you want to customize, by clicking this customize grid, you can customize. If you want to add any column, you can tick that column, and if you want to remove any column, you can untick that column. And by clicking these headings, you can sort this grid by ascending or descending order. Next, if you want to filter any purchase orders based on these filters, you can filter. And if you want to search any document, you can search from here. You can enter supplier name or document number, then it will display those purchase orders. Next, if you want to sort by multi-columns, you can sort multi-columns by clicking this A to Z button. You can add levels from here and you can sort from here. You can set sorting order. And if you have attached any documents, you can see that attachment color change to orange. And if you have add any notes or if you add any comments, you can view from here. From this status column, you can view your purchase order status. There are 4 status: pending, overdue, confirmed, and cancelled and invoice. Pending is you have sent the purchase order, but still that delivery date not reached. Therefore, it's pending. And if you have sent purchase order and you that purchase order delivery date reached, it's overdue. And if your supplier confirm the order, it's confirmed. And if your supplier cancel the purchase order, status will change to cancel. And if you convert this purchase order to supplier invoice, it will change to invoice. Right. Next, actions. From actions, you can preview your purchase order. And you can print email purchase order, or if you want to edit or delete this purchase order, and you can update the status. This is status you can update from here. And if you want to create supply invoice for this purchase order, by clicking this create invoice, you can convert that purchase order to supplier invoice. Next, copy purchase order. You can copy same purchase order for another purchase order. Next, view history. By clicking this view history, you can view the history. Furthermore, you can view some inactivated buttons here. If you select any purchase order, those buttons will activate: print, delete, update status. If you want to print more than one purchase order, you can select those purchase orders and you can print, or if you want to delete, you can delete. And if you want to update status more than one purchase order, you can update from here. From here, you can view number of purchase orders in the system. Right. Those are the purchase order options. Next, we will move to supplier invoices. Now, in practical situations, sometimes your company may send purchase orders to your suppliers and purchase goods, or directly you will purchase and you can enter that supplier invoice to the system. Okay, sometimes your company may send purchase orders, or without sending purchase orders also you can purchase. And if you are purchasing without purchase orders, you can directly enter your supplier invoice from here. Right, you can enter supplier invoices from suppliers transactions, supplier invoice, and click add supplier invoice. From suppliers drop down menu, you can select the supplier. After you select the supplier, you can view supplier balance, tax number, credit limit, addresses, and from here you can enter supplier invoice number. And if you have set any default details such as credit period, default discount, it will display here. And you can enter uh, those items you have purchased from that supplier. Right. Here also, if you tick this use inclusive, you can view that inclusive prices, or if you untick, it will display exclusive prices. And if you are using any analysis code, you can select analysis codes from here. And if that items has any serial numbers, you can enter serial numbers here. After you enter these details, you can save this supplier invoice. Right, now you can enter supplier invoice, can go to suppliers transactions, select supplier invoice, add supplier invoice, and you can enter supplier invoice. Okay, you can enter supply invoice like that. And there are other two methods you can enter uh, supplier invoices. First option, if you already enter any purchase orders, you can convert that purchase order into a supplier invoice. You can go to purchase orders list, and by clicking these actions, create invoice, click OK. Then that purchase order converted to this supplier invoice. So you don't want to enter details again. Same way, same as supplier purchase order, those details will convert to supplier invoice. And if you want to do any changes, you can change from date. Then you can enter supply invoice here, quantity, prices. You can enter. If you want to change, you can change. And without supply invoice, you cannot save. Therefore, please enter supply invoice number, and you can save this supplier invoice. Furthermore, after you go to supply invoice and select the supplier, if that supplier has any purchase orders, pending purchase orders, you can select that purchase order and you can convert to supplier invoice. Like this, you can convert that supply purchase order to supplier invoice. And these two methods you can use if you have entered purchase order, and if you haven't entered any purchase orders, you can enter supplier invoice from suppliers transactions and supplier invoice. And if you have entered supplier purchase orders, you can convert those purchase orders to supplier invoice. And when you are purchasing these items, if you have select any analysis code, that cost will transfer to relevant analysis code. Right. Next, now when you are purchasing these goods, sometimes there may be some additional cost involved for this purchase. Now, for an example, if you are importing goods from uh, any other country, there may be some custom charges, taxes, and insurance, transport charges will be available. And if there are any additional charges such as transport, insurance, and you want to allocate those expenses to your items, you can do it from this add additional cost. Okay? By clicking this add additional cost button, you can add those additional costs and you can allocate those costs to these items. You change this item cost. Right. You will add additional cost from here. By clicking add cost, you can select supplier and you can enter that description, supply invoice number, that assume we will enter transport cost. Now you can see it has allocated to those items. It has allocated based on this item values. Here 100,000. First item also total 100,000. Second item also 100,000. Our transport cost is 10,000. So that transport cost allocated to those two items. If you change, that additional cost also will change. And if you have any other additional cost also, you can add. You can see here total additional cost is 15,000. It has allocated to those items. Change the quantity. Now first item total is 200,000, second item 100,000. That 15,000 allocated by 10,000 and 5,000. After that, you can save this item, save this supplier invoice. So when you are generating that item cost, then item cost will, that cost of sales will include this additional cost. Right, now you can practice this additional cost. Right. Next, we will discuss other options. Now, without supply invoice number, you cannot save this supply invoice. And if you have entered any credit limit, when you are entering that, when you are processing this transaction, if you are exceeding the credit limit, system will pop up a message. Your credit limit will exceeded. Would you like to continue? If you want to continue, you can click yes. And if you haven't entered your supply invoice number, you system will not allow you to save this supplier invoice number. Therefore, you need to enter supplier invoice number. And also, you can remember, I think you can remember when you are doing company settings, under general settings, customer and supplier settings, uh, their second option, second setting, warn when duplicate supplier invoice number used on supplier invoices. If you take this option, if you are entering same invoice number again, system will pop up this warning message. The supplier invoice number entered in this document has already been used for this supplier. Do you want to continue? If you want to continue, you can click yes. And by mistake, if you have entered this supplier invoice number, you can click no and you can change the number. Check this item already available. Okay, you can see that number available. Therefore, system will not or system will pop up a warning message. Right. After you create supply invoice, you can view the supplier invoices list. From this grid, you can view what are your supplier invoices. And you can customize this grid by clicking this customize grid button. And if you want to add any column, you can tick. If you want to remove any column, you can untick that column. And you can search invoices from here and type any supply invoice name or number and you can search. And if you want to filter, you can filter from here. Next, if you want to sort by multi-columns, you can add levels from here and you can sort. Next, you can sort this grid or ascending or descending order by clicking these headings. And you can see some invoices has box, some doesn't have, because these invoices are that additional cost. Therefore, those items, those supplier invoices doesn't have this tick box. Right. Next, you can view that status from here: unpaid, paid, partially paid, overdue. Like that, there are few status. Paid is you can see that total supply invoice amount and amount due. that if it is payment amount due is 0, that means you have paid for that supplier invoice. And you can see this invoice, its total is 106, amount due is 75, that is you have paid partially, therefore this status will change to partially paid. Next one, unpaid. If you haven't paid for this invoice, status is unpaid. And there's another status, overdue. Now due date is here, 21st September 2018, but we have reached that due date, therefore this is overdue. And if you haven't reached the overdue date, it's unpaid. Okay, the difference between the overdue and unpaid is you have credit period, and overdue is you have reached the credit period. And from actions you can edit that supplier invoice, print, preview. And if you want to create supplier returns for this supplier invoice, you can create. And if you want to create payment for this supplier invoice, you can create, or you can copy that supplier invoice. And also you can view the history of this supplier invoice. And from this side, if you want to print more than one supplier invoice, you can print from here. Right, next we'll discuss other options. First, invoice history. From here you can view the invoice history. You can view who created, date, user, and if you have done any changes for this one, you can view from here. Next, show user defined fields. By clicking that show user defined field button, you can add user defined fields. Next, document attachments. If you want to attach any documents, you can attach from here. You can attach up to 2 MB and 5 attachments. Next, document notes. If you want to add any document notes, you can add from here. And when you reach the action date, system will display under dashboard. Next, anticipated date. Now, for this invoice, if your supplier giving you credit period, and you can add anticipated payment date for this supplier invoice. And when you reach that supplier anticipated payment date, you can view it from dashboard under to-do list. From here, you can view. Next, create supply return. Now, after you purchase this supply invoice, and if you are returning these goods to supplier, you can create a supplier return. And if you want to again invoice, you can enter return and re-invoice. And you want to create payment for this supply invoice, by clicking this create payment, you can create payment. If you want to copy same supply invoice, you can click copy invoice and you can copy this invoice. Okay, you can enter supply invoice from supplier transactions, and you can enter supplier invoices by clicking this edit supplier invoice. And if you have entered purchase orders before enter supply invoice, you can convert that purchase order to supply invoice from this purchase orders grid. And your item cost will update from this supplier invoices. Now if you go to items, this average cost will change from this supplier purchase supplier invoices. Okay, you can view cost, last cost, and average cost both. Now you can see this has this last cost and average cost you can view. And one more thing, now when you are purchasing those items, now for an example, if you are mentioning that serial numbers for an example here, and you can search these document comments from this uh, search transaction option. You can type that and you can view that what is the document, date, transaction type, name, supplier name, document number, reference. Those details you can view from here. Right, now you can practice this supplier invoices. right? Next, we will move to next transaction, supplier returns. Now, after you purchase items from your supplier, sometimes those items may damage or expired, or due to any other reason you want to return those items to your suppliers. That case, if you are returning goods, you can enter that return from this supplier returns. You can go to suppliers transactions, supplier returns, and click add supplier return. From here you can select your supplier, and you can enter that returning items. If you last purchase price will display here, and if you purchase from different price, you can change that price. And you can allocate to your analysis codes, and you can save that supplier return. Okay, like this, you can enter your supplier return. In addition to that, there's two more methods. One option is you can select the supplier. After that, if you have any invoices, now you have already purchased from that supplier, so you can uh, return it from your supplier invoice. Now you have already entered supplier invoices, so you have entered supplier invoice, and you can uh, take items from that supplier invoice. Now after you select that supplier invoice, system will display uh, that items. Okay, I'll repeat it again. Now if you have already entered supplier invoices, you can convert that supplier invoice to supplier return. After you go to supplier returns, add supplier return, select the supplier. From here, from invoice, you can select the supplier invoice. Then those item will display here. And now here, three items available, quantities available, prices available, and you can process that uh, supplier return. Now here, if you are converting from a supplier invoice, you don't want to enter that details again. All details you can populate from the supplier invoice. And if you are returning, now here you have purchased 10. If you are returning only 2, you can change the item quantity. Okay. After that, you can save this supplier return. And also, you can go to supplier invoices, and you can, by clicking this action, you can select the supplier invoice, and by clicking these actions, you can select create supplier return. Then also that supplier return details will display here, and you can save this supplier return. Okay, like that you can enter supplier returns. I'll repeat it again. First, you can go to suppliers transaction, supplier return, click add supplier return, select the supplier, and you can enter returning items. Or if you have entered already entered supplier invoice, you can uh, populate from that supplier invoice. You can select that supplier invoice, and then system will populate that items in the supplier invoice. And from here, if you want to change quantities, you can change quantity, and you can process the supplier return. Furthermore, you can go to supplier invoices and click actions, select create supplier return, and you can return your goods to supplier. Okay, like that you can enter supplier returns. Now you can enter supplier returns, and after you enter returns you can take a short break. We will start by 2:30. Okay, you can enter supplier purchase orders, supplier invoices, and supplier returns like that. Furthermore, when you are entering supplier purchase orders or supplier invoices, from here you can change that item type. Now, for an example, if you are invoicing your trading items, you can select items. Then from here you can select that items. And if you want to add any transaction to your GL account, you can select account as type, and from selection you can select GL accounts. Now, for an example, if you are purchasing any fixed asset, you can add to fixed asset, or if you are pay if you want to add your utility bills, you can select that electricity expenses. And if you are incur any advertisement costs, you can select advertising expenses. Like that, you can select your GL accounts if you select account from the type. And also, you can remember, I think, when you are creating items, we have created bundle items. And if you want to purchase bundle item, you can select type as bundle, and from here you can select the bundle item. Okay, like that, in addition to items, you can select bundle, account, and items. Okay, next we will move to supplier transaction and supplier payments. Now you have purchased goods from suppliers. Now you are going to pay to your suppliers. If you want to pay to your suppliers, you can uh, enter that supplier payments from the supplier payment section. Go to suppliers transactions, supplier payments, and click add supplier payment. Now from here you can select the supplier name. After you select the supplier name, you can view supplier balance and supplier outstanding invoices. From here, you can enter your payment amount, and you can enter. Now, if you are entering by check, or if you are paying by check, you can enter check number, or if you are paying by credit card, you can enter that credit card details. Now, there are four payment methods: cash, check, credit card, and EFT. Based on that, if you are paying from cash, you can select cash, or if you are paying check, you can select check, and you can enter check number under reference. And if you are paying by credit card, you can enter that credit card number, or if you are paying by, or if EFT is electronic fund transfer, if you are doing any fund transfer, you can enter fund transaction number under reference. Now, in unpaid invoices, you can view that invoice number, date, total, amount due, amount paid, and discount. Right. Now, we will enter payment. There are two options. You can enter paying amount. Take another supplier. One option is you can select unpaid invoices. You can tick, then that unpaid amount or due amount will display under payment amount. If you select two invoices, that total will display here. Like that, uh, you can select your paying invoices, then this amount will calculate. Or else you can enter paying amount. And you can allocate to your invoices. Now, when you are creating suppliers, you can remember here we have there's option auto allocate payments to oldest invoices. If you have tick this option, when you are entering payment amount, system will allocate to oldest invoices. And if you untick this option, you can manually select invoices. So here also, if you want, you can manually select your paying invoices. After you enter payment amount, you can select paying amount, paying invoices, and here you can view unallocated amounts. Okay, like that, you can select invoices. So after you enter paying amount, system will auto allocate to oldest invoices. Right. Next, if you want to allocate this payment to any analysis code, you can select analysis code from here. And when you are generating reports, transaction report filtering by analysis code, that analysis code will display. Okay. Then you can print or email these payment vouchers. You can print detailed. If you select detailed, system will display each transaction wise or each invoice wise. Here you can view. And if you print summary, you can view only the amount. If you print summary, you can view only the total amount. But if you select detail, you can view uh, invoice date, invoice number, document number, invoice number, and payment amount. Right. After you enter that payment, you can view that supply payment list. From here, you can customize grid, and from here you can filter, and you can sort by multi columns, and you can search transaction. And also when you are creating bank accounts, you can set default account and default payment method. Now in our bank accounts, we have set this Sampath Rupee as, you can see that default account as default account, and default payment method is check. And when you are enter that supply payment, in this screen also, the default bank account is Sampath Rupee and payment default payment method is check. And when you are processing transaction time, if you want to change, you can change this payment method and bank account. And here under description, if you want to add any detail, you can add. And if you want to add any details under comments, you can add here. And in practical situation, sometimes you may enter payments to your suppliers as an advance payment. And when you are paying advance payment, you haven't enter your supplier invoice to the system. In that case, without selecting an invoice, you can enter the payment amount. Okay. In practical situations, sometimes you may pay supplier advances. When you are paying advances, you may not enter supplier invoice to the system. In that case, without selecting any invoice or without allocating to invoice, you can enter the payment amount. Right. Now you can enter supplier payment. Okay, you can enter supplier payment from here, or you can go to supplier transactions, supplier invoices. You can select unpaid invoices, click actions, and create payment. Then system will pop up that supplier name, payment amount, and system has selected that supplier invoice, and you can process this payment. Okay, you can go to supplier invoices, select the invoice you are going to pay, click actions, create payment. Then system will select supplier, payment amount, and payment invoice. After that, you can process this supplier payment. Furthermore, you can enter that supplier payments from banking transactions also. Go to banking, transactions, banking. You can select the bank account here, and from type you can select supplier and select the supplier, and you can enter the payment amount under spent. And if you are paying from check, you can select that. You can enter pay check number, and if you want to allocate to any analysis code, you can select here. You can select payment method, and you can save this supplier payment. And also you can allocate payment to your unpaid invoices by clicking this arrow. Then the screen will display. From here you can allocate which invoice you are going to pay. And also sometimes you may need to pay two suppliers from one transaction. Okay, in practical situations, sometimes you need to pay two suppliers from one transaction. In that case, you can select supplier from here, and without selecting the supplier, or you can select the supplier, uh, you can click this double arrow, and from type you can select the supplier, and here selection you can select supplier, and payment amount you can enter here. And from next line you can select other supplier, and if you want to add more suppliers, you can add from this by clicking this plus mark. And when you are completing this transaction, this remainder should be 0. After that you can save. In one transaction you can pay for more than one supplier. You can see this selection and type has changed to split. From here you can view who are the suppliers. Okay, you can enter supplier amounts here under exclusive, and this will allocate to to suppliers. Right. Next, sometimes your suppliers may give discount if you are pay early. Now, suppliers will give credit period, but if you are paying before that credit period, sometimes suppliers will give you discount. In that case, you can enter that discounts under this discount column. Same, supplier will give 20,000 discount, and you can enter payment amount here, and discount you can enter here. Like that, if your supplier is giving you discount when you are paying, those discount, or for an example cash discount, you can enter here. Now you can enter discount when you are entering supplier invoices, but after that also, if your supplier giving discount, you can enter when you are paying for that supplier. Okay, you have the option to enter that discount here, or under payment, or you have the option to enter discount under supplier invoice. But after you process the supplier invoice and customer giving additional discount, you can enter here. Okay, now you can practice these uh, additional payment methods. Next, we will move to allocate payments. Now, you can generate supplier balances days outstanding report from the system. Now, when you generate this report, sometimes you can see there are plus amount and minus amount available. This minus amounts are payments and plus amount are invoices. Now, when you are enter your supplier payment, sometimes you will forget to allocate that payment to invoice, or sometimes you may enter advance payment and later you enter the supplier invoice. And when you are entering advance payment, you cannot uh, select the supplier invoice. Therefore, that invoice and uh, payment amount will display uh, in the supply outstanding report as two lines. Now here also you can see this supplier, it has supply invoice 100 and another invoice 2500. You have entered 2600, but now this supplier outstanding balance is 0, but it will display in the supplier outstanding report. This will display because we haven't allocate that supplier payments to supplier invoices. Now, if you haven't allocate your payments, or when you are, if you enter advance payment and later you enter supply invoice, you cannot allocate that payment. Therefore, from allocations, you can allocate if you have any unallocated uh, supplier payments. You can select the supplier from here and click refresh. Then you can view your unpaid invoices and unallocated receipts. You can drag and drop that paying amount to here and you can settle that invoices. Now you can see when you are allocating payments, this due amount will decrease, and here also that unallocated payment will not display here. We'll try again. You can see that 5,000 now not available. This due amount reduced by 5,000. Like that, you can allocate your unallocated payments to your supplier invoices. After you allocate your payments, uh, these suppliers will not display. Right. And when you are allocating, there are few options. First one, show outstanding only. And if you tick this option, system will display only outstanding invoices. Now you can see these invoices has due amount. That means this invoices not paid fully. And if you untick and if you refresh, you can view all invoices. Now here there are some invoices with due amount 0, that is fully paid invoices. Next, there are three display options. First one, all invoices. Second one, invoices between. Third one, specific invoice number. Now if you select all invoices, it will display all invoices. Now if you have tick this show outstanding only, then system will display all outstanding invoices. Next, invoices between. If you select this option, invoices between option, and if you select date range and refresh, system will display only this date range invoices only. And if you want to view any specific number, you can enter that invoice number. Then system will display only that invoice number. Right. And you can drag and drop to that unallocated invoice to unallocated payments through invoices. When you are starting, you can see that icon color is red, and when you are dropping to any invoice, it will change to green color. Okay, first red, then color will change to green. Okay, like that you can drag and drop, and relevant invoice after you select, you can drop that payment. Right. Now you can see this plus marks available. If you click this plus mark, you can view what are the payments you have allocated to this invoice. You can see there are three payments, PA-wise payments. There are three payments we have allocated to this supplier invoice. Now for this one also, total 13,219 and due amount is 583. That is, we have allocated in invoice. Can see that this is a return you have allocated to return. Right. In addition to payments, you can sometimes you can view supplier returns, supplier adjustment. Supplier adjustment may be in both side, right side and left side both. If you are increasing your supplier supplier balances by supplier adjustment, it will display left side, and if you are reducing your supplier balances by supplier adjustment, it will display in right side. Okay, if you are increasing left side, decreasing right side. Okay, now if you haven't allocated any returns, it will display here. Like that, you can drag and drop your uh, unallocated payments to invoices. By now, if you by mistake allocate to any incorrect invoice, you can again drop to right side and you can allocate correct invoice. Okay, you can, if you by mistake you have allocated to incorrect invoice, you can drag and drop again to right side and you can select the correct invoice. Right. Next, there's another option, split unallocated item amount. Now, sometimes you are paying more than one invoice from a one invoice, one payment. Now, for an example, you have mm, four invoices here, and for each invoice, you are going to pay 12,500 from this payment. Okay, you have four invoices here, last four, and you are going to pay 12,500 for each invoice from this 50,000. Now, if you drag and drop here, you cannot allocate 50,000. So if you want to allocate specific amount, you can use this split unallocated item amount. By ticking this, you can allocate any specific amount. Now we will allocate 12,500 for this invoice. Now after you tick this split unallocated item and you drag and drop this payment, this window will open. From here you can enter how much you are going to allocate for that invoice. Okay, now here 12,500 from that payment also, unused amount reduced to 30,500, 37,500, and again you can allocate 12,500, and here you have allocated 12,500. Now unused amount reduced to 25,000. like that. If you want to allocate specific amount from a payment, you can use this split unallocated item amount. Right now, you can allocate your payments and you can practice these display options, show outstanding only, and split unallocated item amounts. Okay, next we will move to supplier adjustments. Now, in practical situations, sometimes due to user mistake or incorrect transaction, you need to adjust your supplier balances. In that case, you can add supplier adjustment by clicking this add supplier adjustment. From here, you can select the supplier and from effect, you can increase or decrease your supplier balances. Now, if you select increase, your supplier balance will increase, and if you select decrease, that supplier balances will decrease. And for this transaction, if taxes available, you can select the tax rate, and by affecting account, you can select the correcting GL account. Now, for an example, by mistake you have allocate that advertising expenses to your supplier and you want to increase your supplier balances, you can select that by affecting account as advertising, or like that in GL account you can select from here for this supplier adjustment. After that, you can enter reference for this transaction and enter the amount. Next, you can enter descriptions and comments and date. And if you are decreasing your supplier balances, you can select your supplier invoices or any unpaid invoices you can select from here. After you enter these details, you can process this supplier adjustment. Furthermore, if you want to allocate to analysis code, you can select analysis codes from here. Okay, in practical situation, if you want to adjust supplier balances, you can adjust from supplier adjustments. You can increase or decrease your supplier balances. And you need to select by affecting account for this supplier adjustment. Okay, now you can enter supplier adjustments. Okay, next we will move to is output tax adjustment. You can adjust your tax adjustment, supplier tax adjustment from here. You can select supplier details, and you can edit, or you can do input tax adjustment from here. Actually, currently this feature not available in Sri Lanka. Therefore, we will go back to previous transactions. Now, when you are creating your suppliers, you can select supplier currency. Okay, from here you can select supplier currency, and if you have any foreign customers, or sorry, foreign suppliers, foreign currency suppliers, when you are enter transactions for those suppliers, that supplier's currency will display. Okay, when you are creating supplier purchase order, you select. Okay, now the supplier currency is Singapore dollars. Singapore dollars. Therefore, now when you are enter transactions, that supplier's currency will display here. Balance will display in supplier's currency, credit limit, and when you are enter transaction, you can enter exchange rate also. And if you want to, system will automatically display this exchange rate. And if you want to change the exchange rate, by clicking this exchange rate, you can change the exchange rate. And for items also, you can view that items prices in supplier's currency. For supplier invoices also, now this is AED, currency is AED. You can see that current customer's balance, credit limit, and item prices in AED. And when you are enter supplier payments, you can see that bank amount in rupee value, and you can see the SGD value also. And you can view the exchange rate. You can either pay by local currency, or you can pay by uh, supplier's currency. Okay, if you enter supplier's currency here, system will calculate local currency, or if you enter local currency, system will calculate supplier's currency. For supplier adjustments also, this it will display in supplier's currency, and if you want, you can enter local currency or supplier's currency. Right now you can practice. I think you have created foreign suppliers. You can practice these transactions again in for foreign suppliers. Okay, now when you are entering foreign supplier payment, you can view that exchange rate, and if you want to change the exchange rate by clicking this change rate, you can change the exchange rate. You can view latest exchange rate from here, and if you want to change, first you can change from here, or you can go to this change rate option and select new custom exchange rate. And if you want to change only for this transaction, you can change from here, or if you want to change this rate for particular period, you can select the date range. Okay, now for an example, if you want to change from 14 to 21st, you can select from date to 14th and to date 21st. Then when you are processing transactions, this rate will apply. Okay, furthermore, if you want to change exchange rate, you can change from here, company, change company settings, go to multi-currency. From here, you can view exchange currencies and exchange rate. You can select which currency you are going to change. You can select the currency, and if you want to change, you can select new custom exchange rate and can select date range and change the exchange rate. After that, you can update this exchange rate. These rates automatically update from European Central Bank rates, and if you want to change this exchange rate, you can change from manually. If you select the date, that date exchange rate will display here. Okay, from you can view the home currency and you can view other currencies. Right now, we have completed supplier transactions. Next session, we will start from supplier reports, and please practice this transaction. Please go through this video, and if you have any questions, please ask. Okay, we have shared today's tute, and please do that tute also. Okay, thank you very much. Stay safe.